Gosei Sentai Dairanger!
Hey guys, and welcome to another one of my Gosei Sentai Dairanger episode commentary and reviews. This time it's episode 28, Everyone's Here. And remember, if you do enjoy what you see, please remember to like and subscribe, maybe even leave a comment. It just means a lot on a small channel like this. Now let's get into the episode. The episode opens with Kazu arriving to help an old lady with her food stall. Over at the Gorma Palace, the Triumvirate are meeting with Gorma 15, where they're being told off for taking so long to take over Japan. To aid them, they are given the Gorma Shitano. As Shadam is warned, the Gorma will be displeased if any of them die. Elsewhere, Kameo is at home drawing pictures of turtles when he hears the call of the ramen stall and grabbing his turtles rushes out. When he gets there, he recognises Kazu, much to the ranger's embarrassment, who doesn't want his friends to see him. Flashing back to when he first ran away from home and met the woman who ran the stall, bringing Kameo to tears with his story as Kazu tells him not to tell anyone, as Kameo says he will help, taking some bowls to wash in the fountain, where he finds a jewel in the water. Picking up the jewel, he returns the bowls to Kazu as explosions go off around them, and Kazu is attacked by Copatros as Kameo starts to run away. But when Kazu tells him the woman relies on the stool, Kameo comes back and pulls the stool away, and Kazu radios the other rangers for help. In town, the four Shitano stop outside a cinema as the rangers exit. But as the older rangers carry on, Ku stops as he hears a whistle, and at the end of the road he sees Akumaru. Chasing down the carriage, the other rangers quickly give chase on Ku. Looking for Ku, Daigo hears Kujaku calling him from a rooftop and chasing after her as she backs away. As Shoji comes across the three Gorma Stooges, chasing after them, as Ryu is attacked by Jin. Elsewhere, Kameo is being chased by Copatros as he's confronted by Zydos as the jewel he found flashes green, blasts the Gorma away as Kazu arrives as Kirin Ranger helping him escape. Later, Kameo is eating ramen as Kazu finds the jewel, which Kameo takes back, before introducing himself as an apprentice artist whose hobby is raising turtles. As he shows off his turtles, he realises Joe is missing and rushes off to find him. Ryu finds himself in a dark and smoky location as the other rangers appear, assuming it to be a Gorma trap before their illusions arrive to confront them. The five rush to attack, but the visions vanish and the Shitano appear behind them. The Gorma throw their hats in the air before announcing themselves to the rangers, who transform and attack, with Ku hiding behind a rock as Byaku Shinken warns him that to transform there would reveal his identity. Meanwhile, Kameo is hunting for Joe when he trips and finds him. But the pair are found by the Gorma as Kazu transforms, but is shot down by Gaara. As Zydos and the Copatros search the ramen stands, but not finding anything there. Back in the demon dimension, the rangers are fighting the Gorma, but each are overwhelmed by the powers of the Shitano. Ryu notices a glowing on one of the Shitano's necklaces, shooting it and freeing them from the dimension, as they return to our world in front of the Triumvirate. Quickly followed by the Shitano, who join hands, forming a single four-faced Gorma monster that drops a bomb and grows giant. As Ku races off, the rangers summon their beasts, as Ku finally transforms and calls on one tiger, and as Ryusei forms warrior modes, as one tiger joins with the others to form Kiba-Dio, as the two mecha fight the Gorma. The rangers fire off the Ho-Oh Guardian, defeating the four-headed monster, and we return to Kazu and Kameo running with the ramen stand, as elsewhere a clay figure forms before turning into the four Shitano, who begin their chanting and walk away. Back home, Kameo is drawing again, when the crystal glows green, and Kameo screams on the floor, before disappearing as the episode ends. Okay, so, first off, we actually get a little bit of backstory for Kazu. And we learn that for some reason he ran away from home 5 years earlier. So, I guess not a great home life? Possibly. Doesn't really give much more than that, but yeah, he ran away from home 5 years earlier. And Kameo is back again. We learn he's a pretty good artist from the pictures that he's got. And that he won't go anywhere without his turtles. Even when he hears the flutes of the ramen stall, he still stops to pick up all of his little turtles. And I also want to say, if I haven't actually mentioned this already, Kameo is actually played by the Yellow Jetman. I think it's a Jet Owl. Or Yellow Owl, I think it was called. But yeah, Yellow Owl is actually Kameo, which I think is really cool. I mean, he's changed a bit from Jetman, which obviously would have been 2 years earlier. It actually took me a while to actually realise they were both the same. Last time I actually watched Dairanger, I hadn't seen Jetman at that point. So that's a new one on me. I actually found that out while doing this, so shared it with you guys. I learned something. The Four Kings of Heaven that appear. They're pretty cool. Their costumes are actually reused from what the Dairangers, I think it was the Dairangers wore, in Dairanger, I think it was episode 38, the Perils of May, or May's Seven Forms, something along those lines. I find some bits out, I forget other bits. They're also defeated in this episode, but they're not defeated in this episode because just like Bandora's golems, you see a scene with a little blob of clay that grows up and becomes the Four Kings of Heaven again. The Rangers all get given visions by the Four Kings when they're being distracted, so they can't help Kazi. So Ku sees Akimaru, who he goes chasing after. And then when the other Rangers go chasing after him, Daigo sees Kujaku. So, of course, he goes after her because he's madly in love. Shoji sees the three Gorma Stooges. And he goes after them because he's basically got a score to settle. And it's nice to just see them around anyway. Ryu sees Jin. Rin doesn't get a vision, probably because she's chasing after Ku. But the question of these visions, though, is why does Ryu see the demon-powered up Jin when he hasn't actually met him like that yet? He doesn't know that he looks like that. So shouldn't he have seen the Jin that he's already beaten that he then wants to go fight again? Let me know in the comments what you think of that one. I think that might be a slight error, or possibly maybe he was meant to have fought Jin again before this episode aired, but they rearranged it like the order of them and went, yeah, let's get these episodes out first and then he'll fight Jin again. Maybe it's one of those things that no one knows. Maybe that explains why. But one of the things I have been thinking is that, is Kazu the strongest of the Rangers? Even though Ryu's been through all this like strength training to fight Jin, this is at least the second time he's taken on a large group by himself. Last time it's when they had the evil Sentai going up against them. The other Rangers were basically up against two of each of themselves. Because it was the four Rangers versus two squads of Rangers, minus Kazu. But Kazu was up against a full squad of Dairangers. But Kazu is basically up against five of them, and he he fights them, gets knocked out, supposedly, or fakes it, where he's then able to then beat the Gorma. And in this time, he's fighting a large group again. You've got the Gorma Triumvirate and the Copjoss, and he's able to, defend Kameo and all the rest of it. So he seems to do pretty well by himself. Maybe it's just his drunken fist style. Ku, he's finally back. We're finally getting Kiba Ranger again. So I think last episode I said we hadn't had Kiba Ranger or Ku for 3 episodes. Well, Ku for longer. He's finally back. And he seems to have grown and matured from his previous appearances because, in the demon dimension or dark dimension, or whatever you want to call it, where the Four Kings confronted like the Rangers, he hides and says to Byaku, "Can I transform?" And he goes, "No, because they'll know it's you, because we're in a Gorma dimension or pocket dimension when no one else can come. They'll know it's you." And then, of course, when they get out and the Rangers like transform and go into fight, he goes up and hides. Goes, "Can I do it now?" He's like, "Yeah." Like, right, transforms and goes into the fight. So when he first did it, it was like, "Oh, I'm too scared. I'm too scared," but only did it to save Rin. So yeah, that's a nice bit of development, like just building him up. And of course, at the end of the episode, you've got that clear jewel, like really nice looking jewel, but pure white, nice cut sides and all the rest of it. And it seems to defend Kameo against the Gorma, which like shoots out that green electric like looking energy, but also it turns him into a turtle at the end of the episode. So kind of strange there, but I'm sure it's going to be explained soon. And as for cue the Thunderbolt, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Maybe 1 second of footage is used in season 2, episode 25, a monster of global proportions. But that could have been from a later appearance of the Four Kings of Heaven in their joint form. Obviously, we won't get them in their separate forms because they're human looking. We don't seem to get that in any of the appearances. But possibly a second of like them from this episode. Otherwise, it's from their later appearances. So, not much from this episode. But I'm sure I'll mention this again the next time they turn up. And possibly when they've got that footage being used. Because I always go and check. But hey, next time it'll be episode 29. So I'll see you then.